Miss Loida Nicolas-Lewis, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. I find it quite poetic that we're sitting down here for a conversation when the news of the day is a former President Rodrigo Duterte being arrested by the International Criminal Court. And I say that's poetic because 7, 8 years ago, at the height of his power, you were one of the people that he was publicly lashing out. When you're looking into what's going on right now, what's going through your mind?
Well, thank you very much, Regina, or I call you Reg, yeah, for having me. It's an honor. Well, I am sort of nonplussed. I mean, I couldn't believe what happened when the strategy of President BBM worked so well in the sense that he came back from Hong Kong, and then he knew that he's going to be apprehended, and they were able to distract his fan base that he was going to the hospital when in fact he was going to Hague on a chartered plane. So that for me was almost a miracle. And in a way, you know the word of India, karma, okay? What goes around comes around. And so his work of especially the extrajudicial killing of people who are suspected drug addicts and drug dealers have been killed mercilessly, and now he's going to answer for it. So for me, it's like milagro talaga. It is a miracle.
Do you know even why you ended up in his crosshairs? Because in the early 2018, I remember he gave a public speech singling you out as the one who was working with the ICC to ask them to look into his drug war. He said na meron siyang transcript of a phone conversation between yourself and someone else.
It's a fake news.
Okay.
Fake news completely. It was, I think what triggered it is that he was sworn in July 1. And his campaign promises was that I will stop the drugs, and if I don't stop it, I'm going to resign. Yeah. So that was July. By December, he not only fired Leni Robredo as his vice president by just telling her don't attend blunt meetings, but also it's already 6 months and he's still talking as if nothing happened. His promise had no meaning. So I purposely called up ABS-CBN Filipino channel, Don Tagala, to say, okay, I'll have to deliver this message. President Duterte, you promised you will resign 3 to 6 months later. It's 6 months already. Fulfill your promise. And I think from that time on, for a woman to call on him, he is so macho. Oh, how dare you? So he's concocted all this idea that I did this and I did that, and coup d'etat here, coup d'etat there. I mean, I don't even know a single soldier, much less a captain or a general. So it's all concocted. And because of that, my 2 daughters, my mother-in-law, mom, Mrs. Fugit said, don't go back to the Philippines. And I thought, fine, I'll boycott the Philippines as my form of protest.
So you stayed away for a few years?
I stayed it for all 7 years.
Yeah.
And when President BBM was elected, I said, let me see how he is.
Yeah.
So I was glad that his appointments, some were questioned, but many of them are of good people. So I said, And then my school, the Lewis College, was celebrating 25 years from its founding. When 25 years ago, in the year 2000, my brothers, Pastor Francis, my sister, Melly Nicolas, and my sister-in-law, Merceditas Nicolas, said, there is a school for sale. That was 25 years ago. And we named it the Lewis College in honor of my husband in Sorsogon. So they said, I have to come back. And it seems safe, so I'm here.
But for the record, and once and for all, you were not working with the International Criminal Court to ask them, or did not make any sort of outreach to them to ask them to investigate Duterte's
I don't
drug
even
war.
know that they were at The Hague. No, but I follow closely now Leila de Lima, I followed her because we both Bicolana. She's a lawyer and I'm a lawyer. And her being apprehended and imprisoned for trump-up charges that she is involved in the drug war was totally out of whack. And so I'm closely following her. But I knew that she and it was really a lawyer who filed the case in ICC. So I had nothing to do with it. And that, yeah, as I said, I didn't even know it was at The Hague. So for the record, I have nothing to do with President Duterte's arrest.
Yes.
Not arrest, complaint at the ICC, investigation in the ICC, arrest in the ICC, and now he's extradited.
The whole process.
The whole process.
Because back in
Yes.
2018,
For the record, please.
back in 2018, he was already accusing you of that,
Yes.
being involved.
Well, as I said, he
Yeah.
cannot stand that a woman, who would would ask him on television to resign.
Yeah.
That's for him is a no-no.
Do you think Duterte got due process?
Yes, of course. I mean, this has been on since 2017 when he was president. It has been filed in the ICC. The ICC is very careful. It's the International Criminal Court. You don't just issue a warrant without witnesses. And I believe there are 2 witnesses in Davao who did the killing for him.
Yes.
Who testified that I think they threw, somebody to be eaten by crocodiles. They threw somebody from helicopters. These are all hearsay. I did not see their actual process. But they risked their lives because their conscience couldn't stand it anymore, that they killed people, Filipinos. And so these are crimes committed before he even became president. So that's what he is before the ICC. And so after all of this evidence were presented, they came to the Philippines. They also verified whether what is being said is true. So they came here. We didn't know about it, but they came, they did the investigation. And that's when the warrant of arrest was issued by the ICC. They didn't send that warrant of arrest to the government here. They gave it to the Interpol because there is no military arm of the ICC. It's the Interpol who will execute it.
Yeah.
And it's a political decision by President Marcos Jr.
Yes.
He said, all right, get it here, get him.
So you believe that the state fully cooperated in this arrest?
It would not have
procedure?
happened if President Marcos Jr. didn't say, let it happen.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a political decision. Why? Because, sumobra na. The Duterte crossed the line. I think when they said, we will exhume the body of your father and bring it to the sea, whether it's a joke or not, you don't do jokes like that. I mean, the person is buried. I mean, we were fighting against his burial in the libingan ng mga bayani, but he's there. And that is a sacrilege to even say that, even if it's a joke. So they crossed the line. Out.
Your affiliation with the Liberal Party is well known. How would you characterize them right now? Because the criticism has been that they're somewhat diminished. Parang ang naging opposition at this point in time is, strangely enough, the Duterte side, because they are the ones who are coming out to oppose the Marcos. How would you characterize the
Well,
Liberal
I think
Party
it
right
started with having a multiple party. And because there's multiple party, and we are also very regionalistic, so the strength of the Liberal Party, who was then, during the 1950s, 1960s, just 2, nationalista and liberal. My father is a liberal. My mother was from Magsaysay then, but that's beside the point. So we have a history of being with the Liberal Party. So why is it diminished? That's part. There's multi-party. And secondly, our leader, Leni Robredo, has decided to be on the local side. She's running for mayor, unopposed in Naga. And so all that contributed to the diminution of the Liberal Party.
Could it come back, do you think?
Well, there are young people now who are coming and are saying we will enhance and reorganize and try to resuscitate the Liberal Party. There's Attorney De Leon and Dino De Leon, who was the lawyer of Leila de Lima during her 7 years, nearly 7 years of incarceration. So he's a liberal, and many other young people. So I hope they would succeed.
Is that a cause that you would still fund? Your support of the Liberal Party financially is also, I think, an open secret. And is that something that you would, consider?
Yes, I believe in I believe in what they stood for, and Kiko Pangilinan is one of them, and he has been very stalwart, very, very solid in his advocacies. So there is also, of course, Leila de Lima.
You're also someone who has a good handle of both the political and economic aspects of the country, of the Philippines, and as well the United States, of which you're a citizen. What sort of impact do you think all of this political noise might have on the development and the progress of the country? Is that something that worries you?
Well, for one thing, I am dual. I am an American citizen.
Yes.
And when the law was passed of reacquiring or retention of Filipino citizenship in 2004, I immediately took on becoming a Filipino citizen. So I'm a dual, both Filipino and American.
Yep.
And so my interest is in both countries. So for the Philippines, what happened with the former President Duterte being in Hague, being tried for his multiple sins against humanity, the extrajudicial killing, I think the international community, and I'm not the only one, Business News, Business World have said, the international community is saying, sort of nodding his head, giving a thumbs up to President BBM. Why? Because it was unheard of that such an occasion would happen without bloodshed, without without a civil war. So for the international community and for my own thinking, it's a plus for the Philippines.
You're not so much worried about the fallout over it, that people might think here's another cycle of unrest and political instability in the Philippines that might eat into investor sentiment. That's
There
not
is the
something.
possibility. We'll wait and see how, but the head of the snake has been cut off, in a manner of speaking. Meaning to say, the head or the impetus of rebellion is out. That's why in political history, people are exiled. So the strength of the movement with an exiled person is a little bit diminished. The only time that happened, and is because, not so much because the leader is in exile, but because the condition of the country has deteriorated. I talk about Ninoy Aquino. He was exiled to the United States, but there was still a lot of dissatisfaction remaining in the Philippines. Okay, so now what is before President BBM? He has to solve our extreme poverty. Of course, we have, our political standing has come up, but the real challenge to President Marcos Jr. is the economy. And
Correct.
our population, 114 million, in the kind of country equal to England, and 60% of our people saying they are very poor. So that challenge of enhancing education, of decreasing poverty, and having good governance, that's huge problem that the president has only 3 years left to solve.
Yeah. Well, on that matter, how do you think he's doing? What are the things that you see?
For now, he has a passing grade.
Just a passing grade.
Well,
What could be done better?
What could have done better? First, the budget. From what I heard, it is so geared towards the congressmen and the senators instead of national development, instead of putting that money in education. A classroom with 80 students, 70, 50, with one teacher, how can you teach? So the brain power of the Filipino is wasted. If you put the Filipino, all of us, I consider myself Filipinos in the diaspora, we are 10 or maybe now 11 or 12 million people, Filipinos outside the United States, outside the Philippines, we're sending $35 billion, maybe
Yeah.
more, last year.
Yeah.
And that helps the Philippines. And imagine if that kind of brain power is developed here, the Philippines would rise up. But if 60 million Filipinos call themselves poor, now that is a huge distraction for us to become a First Nation.
Yeah.
So it's a big challenge,
Yeah.
the president.
Oh, I mean, you're right.
Marcos.
The budget is currently being challenged at the Supreme Court right now over its constitutionality, over the fact that it failed to make education the biggest slice of the pie.